Welcome to the Irresistible You podcast. This is the place to get a dose of empowerment to create the life you crave and deserve. I'm your host, Amy Beltran, CEO and founder of Irresistible University. I'm a confidence coach here to help you love yourself, drop the body image issues so that you can lose the emotional weight and gain the confidence to look and feel irresistible at any size. So, over the weekend, I was going through this photo storage website that I have that has tons and tons of old pictures on it. And I was looking for one picture in particular. And as I was in there, of course, curiosity got the best of me. And I decided, hey, let me go open up some of these old photos. And I'm talking like 2002, 2003, like some old stuff in there, you guys. And as I was looking at pictures and seeing myself, I have to tell you, like, I didn't recognize or relate to that girl in the pictures, meaning myself. And, you know, this isn't about weight. So there's pictures of me throughout the whole 2000s, every single size but skinny. And so it wasn't like striking me because of the weight changes or the different sizes or any of that kind of stuff. It was just really interesting to look back and see this girl who did not have self awareness, especially in the sense that I have now. This girl who had not yet lost the emotional weight and was still, a lost, confused person. And at the time in those pictures, me thinking that, I had my stuff together and I knew everything and I knew what I was doing and I knew where I was going. And a lot of ways I did. Like I was very self-assured and very ambitious in many ways of like my career path and whatnot. But I look back at those and I just remember like the life that I was living, and all it did was revolve around working, eating, and getting drunk on the weekend. And there really wasn't anything else. And I mean, I guess that's kind of normal in a sense too for someone who's in their early 20s. But I just could look at those pictures and not be angry or mad or like, oh, look at my before. But I was looking at those pictures and just thinking like, I am so grateful to be where I am right now. Grateful to be 38 years old and to be in such a better place than I was in my 20s, right? And glad that I've gone through the things that I've been through so that I've been able to get that type of self-awareness, that I've been able to have a life that's more fulfilling, to have a life that's not living for the weekend, wanting to get drunk just to deal with everything. So, that I'm talking about with you guys today, which is all about we have to stop zombie walking through life, and you've got to find some self-awareness. So let's unpack all of that. Let's break it down and dig right in, shall we? So for those of you that have been seeing that I'm posting my podcast on YouTube, I am still doing that. This one will be on YouTube if you're going to watch this on YouTube. So for my podcast listeners, though, that doesn't matter because all you have to do is listen. So anyway, it will still be on YouTube for you to watch/listen to, because I'm trying to do that for each episode. All right, so what is zombie walking? Let's first talk about, and these are like the Amy terms here that you are getting used to hearing if you've been listening to the podcast for some time. So what is zombie walking? You guys watch The Walking Dead, or you know what a zombie is. Everybody knows what a zombie is, and they just like walk through life, like, there's like no emotion. They're just going through, trying to find the next meal, the next person to eat, or whatever, okay? So zombie walking, what that means is it's when you are just going through the motions of your life. You wake up in the morning, you curse yourself out about how you have to go to work and you wish you could sleep in, and you're the person who hates Mondays, and you get ready and you're just like pissed off the whole time. You're rushing around the house, you're not enjoying anything, you're cursing everybody out on the car, road raging all the way into work. And you get to work and you're just like, resentful, pissed off. You're just going through the motions of what do you have as your excuses as to why you're going to pick up food at the drive-thru or pick up takeout or why you can't cook or why you can't go to the gym or why you can't go for a 10-minute walk. You have all these excuses. And so you go day to day to day to day, and that's just what you're doing. And that's zombie walking. And zombie walking is when you're just existing, but you're not actually living your life. You're existing in your life. And there's a big difference. Okay? You are surviving, but you're not thriving in your life. And there's a big difference between that as well. Okay? Zombie walking happens at some point along the way you gave up. You gave up on you. And you just started accepting, this is just who I am, this is just the way I am, like I'll never change, this is the cards that I was dealt. And so you think pity party continues day after day after day. All right? Been there, done that. And when you're in the zombie walking mode, the thing about it is that you never stop to question. I noticed this, and this kind of like really hit me in the face as I was going back and looking at these old pictures. I started to notice the zombie walk back around 2009-ish. It's probably even like a little bit before that. But, and you know what's crazy? Like I seem to have these things happen in these 10-year increments. Like 1999, 2009 is kind of like this 10-year mark of like, okay, now what am I doing with myself? Type of thing. It's really strange. Anyway, side note. So back around 2009, I started to notice and I started to question things. And this was around, and actually was even like late 2008, I want to say. Because I remember, from looking at the pin, I started to notice some changes that I was taking in myself. I remember that. All right. So anyway, it doesn't matter what time it was. It was about 10 years ago. And the reason was I started to see in the job that I had, and at the time I had been at this job for like 6 years, and I had loved this job for so long, and I loved what I did, and I was just very like goal driven and whatnot with my job and everything. But I started watching almost every single person around me that I loved, that I worked with, that I had these like great relationships with and great times with, they were starting to get laid off. Okay, this was back when 2008 was when the housing crash happened and all these companies started to lay people off because we were in a recession. And I worked in travel at the time, and so that's an industry where you're going to have to cut, right? Because people aren't going to be traveling. And I worked in corporate. So watching people get laid off, people losing their jobs, people losing jobs that they had been at for 10, 15, 20 years even. People that were really good at what they did. All of a sudden just be this number who is scratched off the list. And something about that like really hit me hard. And it made me realize that, and also at the time I was around 28, pushing close to 30. So this was exactly 10 years ago. And I remember I would always say the phrase someday as it related to my career and like being like high up in my career or owning my own business. Because in the back of my mind, that was always what I wanted, was to do my own thing. And I remember saying someday about, goals for my life and like, having a house or kids or getting married or traveling certain places and like, losing the weight and all this other kind of stuff. And it wasn't about the weight, but it was saying someday I'll have a boat, because that's one of my like big dreams in my life, for me, my husband and I both. Like, we want a boat, we want the boating lifestyle, right? And then saying someday about my dream house and someday about all of these things that I just kind of envisioned. And at the time, saying the phrase someday, it just always felt like a good enough excuse because I was young. And because I was young, it wasn't something that was going to happen immediately. So it felt safe to say someday because I could push that off because I'm in my 20s. I don't need to worry about that right now. It's going to happen. And when you start inching to your 30s, you realize, oh shit, I have to become a real adult now. Like, I'm like a real adult. Like, the 20s is kind of like a test run, and you're still stupid and naive, and you do really immature things, and you hurt people, and you do dumb things because you're young and you don't know any better, and you're learning. But as you get close to 30, it's like, okay, I'm actually an adult now. Like, I need to be doing all of those, like, adult decisions and adult things. And it's something about being close to 30, going through the recession, watching all of my coworkers getting laid off. It really opened my eyes to, like, girl, like, someday is not going to just happen for you. And in your life, the things that I had accomplished so far at this point, they didn't just happen to me. They happened to me because I took action and I sacrificed other things like going out or saying no to an event or to a party because I had to study or I had to, get up and go to work the next morning. Like, things happen because we take action. They don't happen because we hope and pray for them to happen. Okay? So here I was, like, I just kept always saying, well, someday I'll have that job I really want, and someday I'll have this. And, watching people get laid off, I had a real conversation one day with my manager at the time because I am a quick learner. I master something and I'm bored and I have to move on to something else, right? And I was kind of at that place in my career at this particular job where I was ready for the next step, but the next step wasn't there. Because I was told that there is no next step unless you want to go down this path, and it was not a path that I wanted to be on. And so those kind of like three things for me kind of went into the washer or went into the bowl, so to speak, to make this recipe of like, there's got to be more than this. And that's kind of when that little whisper started for me. There has to be more. And I hope I don't get emotional. I could see the shift as I was looking through my pictures this weekend. I could see the shift in 2009. So all of this was like late 2008, early 2009. And in the summer of 2009, a lot of things happened. Positive things. I got engaged, and my husband and I got Chewy. Chewy is our Chihuahua who's now 10 years old, and I cannot believe that. We got him at 6 weeks old, and that was like the pivotal moment for me. And I tell everybody this, like, getting my little Chewy is actually what changed the trajectory of my life. And I'm not trying to be dramatic or silly. Like, I'm being, swear to God, I'm being honest with you guys about that. Like, Chewy, oh my God, I'm gonna get emotional. Like, Chewy was that springboard that made me realize there is more to life than getting drunk on the weekend and zombie walking through a job that doesn't give a shit about you at the end of the day. And I realized that I didn't want to go sit in an office for 9 hours a day while I had this little puppy at home because I want to be there with him while I'm working. And that was like the final, like, bam, like, we got to figure this out. There is no someday. Girl, you're making your someday. And that's where my Irresistible You journey really started. And when I say Irresistible You journey, what I mean is not just the weight loss, but the emotional weight and figuring out, like, what are the things that are missing for me in my life? Because at this point, there was no Irresistible You framework. There was no course. There was none of that stuff. There wasn't even a business or a blog, right? But I knew in my heart and my gut, I could feel it. Like, there is something bigger, there is something more. And if you don't decide to make some, like, big reaction or have, like, this big catalyst that's going to stop it all and question it all, you're just going to be doing this, and you're going to be turning 38, and you're still going to work here. You're still going to be making mediocre money, and you're still not going to be where you want to be in your life. And so for me, that was like that pivotal moment of, like, I kind of started waking up from the zombie walk, right? So I was awakening from this zombie walk, realizing I have, like, really big dreams and goals, and I better start working on them. And again, Chewy was like my like saving grace because he made me realize how much more there was to life. Because having a dog and a puppy, you get outdoors and you're doing more things, and you're just like, I'll have to do a whole episode on pets and dogs and how they like enhance our lives. But that's not what this episode is about. But I wanted to go back in time and share that with you because at some point I think we all are zombie walking through life. And we either have to decide to wake up, or you just keep doing what you're doing, but then don't complain that you're miserable if you're going to keep doing what you're doing, right? All right, so then, this is when, all of that happened, and that's how my blog launched in 2010. My first course launched in 2011, which is completely laughable now, considering how much it has evolved over time. But at the heart and soul of the Irresistible You course, it was the same guiding principles that I talk about today. But they have evolved over time because I gained so much more life experience and wisdom. So let's do that on another day. But let's dive into the zombie walking and how that affects you. So another thing that you do when you're zombie walking through life, it's almost like you wait for this magical moment to happen for you before you decide to take action, right? And I could have done that too when all of that was going on. And I think it was just like, I kind of just decided one day that like none of this is going to change and you're going to be the next person on the chopping block. And what value do they really have in you? Right? So like you need to pave your own path here because to any job, I don't care where you go, you are replaceable. Right? And so you don't have to have this like magic moment or this epiphany in order for you to start taking action. Okay. And I think sometimes you think like the only way you're going to be ready to lose weight, the only way you're going to be ready to change your life is if you get this like massive sign from the universe or from God. And sometimes you just need to go out and make your own damn sign. Paint your own sign, put some glitter on it. Okay. Because waiting for all the conditions, and this is what I mean by that, it's like you're waiting for this magic moment where like all the conditions are perfect and then I'll work on those goals. And that's what I was doing. Well, someday I'll do that. And just assuming that like someday everything would just be perfect and fall in place, and that's when I'll start my goals and my dreams and my weight loss. So you can't wait for all the conditions in your life to be perfect because they never will be. And they never will be for an extended period of time. Okay? And so what happens in your life, if that's your mentality, then what happens when the conditions are not perfect? Right? Because you're going to have those days. And here's a great example. Like a couple of weeks ago, I decided, let's go to the beach. It's a nice day out. Let's go do this. Let's go crabbing. Let's go swimming. Let's go, do the beach thing. And we loaded up in the truck, got all the stuff. And especially if you have a toddler, that's a lot of stuff to go to the beach. It's kind of ridiculous. And as soon as we pulled in the parking lot, the sky was like black. Right? And so we kept looking at the weather and like, should we go? Should we not? Like, oh, it's going to pass. And like, so what do we do? Like we sat in the truck, we have a little, my husband's truck has like a TV in it in the front, like where the GPS is and you can watch movies. So we got in the front seat, we watched a movie, we had our lunch, we were going to have it on the beach, but we had our lunch in the car and it was like so fun. Nothing about that is perfect. We sat in the truck in the parking lot of a beach while it was storming, waiting for the storm to pass. And we worked with what we had. Instead of going home and being all sad about it and complaining that it was storming, we made the best of the situation. And you know what happened? After a while, the storm passed over and it ended up being the most beautiful afternoon we've ever had. And we had a blast. So you can't sit there and just wait for everything to be perfect. You have to start working through the days that aren't perfect, the stormy days, and make the best of it. Because this journey of weight loss, and when I say weight loss here, I always mean, losing the physical weight, losing the emotional weight. It's never going to be a perfect journey. And I don't care if you're 10 years in and you're actually at your goal weight, you're still going to have days that aren't perfect and that are going to challenge you and put you to the test, where you sometimes feel like you want to throw it all away and go backwards. And so to stop zombie walking through life with your weight loss and even your, just all of your goals, because your weight is actually stopping you from the goals that you have for yourself, the big scary goals that you envision. Your weight, physically, emotionally, in some way, it's holding you back from the life that you want. And so I want to talk to you about some key behaviors and mindset shifts you have to make in order to stop the zombie walk, okay? And so first and foremost, number one thing, okay, is make a commitment to yourself. And here's the thing about commitment. You don't get to sit there and pick and choose when you're going to be committed to yourself. And that's what you're doing right now. Well, I'll start my diet on Monday. I'll be committed to it for 2 days until Susie Q asks me to go out to dinner. And now I'm going to blow it because that's more important than meeting my goals. Is, having a bacon double cheeseburger or whatever the hell it is you order, right? You don't get to pick and choose when you're committed to yourself. Commitment is commitment. And think about that. I didn't walk down the aisle in church to marry my husband and take these vows and make these commitments to him. And then when he gets sick and goes to the hospital and has surgery, be like, well, I don't feel like sitting by him. Sickness, in sickness or in health, I don't care. I got stuff to do. Or, I don't really feel like being faithful today. You don't do that. And if you are doing that, your marriage is not in a good place. I mean, hello, right? So if you're not being committed in your marriage or your relationship, you probably don't have a really good one. And when you're not committing to yourself, you don't have a real good relationship with yourself. Because making a commitment to yourself and keeping that commitment is the number one way to build confidence and trust in yourself. It just is. Because when you tell yourself, I am committed to my health, I am committed to losing this weight, and I'm going to do whatever it takes, even on the days that suck and the days that are hard and the days that I want to throw in the towel. I'm still going to show up and I'm still going to do what I have to do. And when you do that on the days where you feel like complete shit, do you know how rewarding that feels? Versus just giving up and eating all the things. So when you build or you keep that commitment to yourself, you're building your self-confidence and the trust in yourself. And this is the number one way also to stop starting over on Monday. Because trust and believe, you're never going to want to do this every single day. Nobody wants to do everything every single day. Do you want to go to work every single day? But do you? Yes. Do you want to do certain things for your kids every single day? No. But you have to. You do it anyway. Do you want to take your dog out for a walk every single day? Maybe not. Right? So we have responsibilities and commitments to other things in our life, our jobs, our kids, our pets, our families, our whatever. And I bet you're not breaking those commitments. So why is it that you are so willing to break the commitments to yourself? Why? Why? Why would you treat yourself in such a bad way? Right? So number one thing to stop zombie walking is I need you to make a commitment to yourself that you're doing this and you're going to do it no matter what. And you're going to do it knowing the conditions aren't perfect. You're going to do it not sitting around and waiting for some aha moment with the big flashing sign. You're going to do it because you understand and you know what is at risk if you don't do what you need to do. So if you don't go to work every day, what happens? You don't get paid and you lose your job. And if you don't get paid and you lose your job, guess what? You can't pay your bills. So where are you going to live? What are you going to eat? What are you going to wear? Right? And that has implications for you and other people that you help to support, your dependents. So what happens when you break the commitments to yourself? What happens? And I want you to think about that. For you, if you don't stay on your journey to lose weight and be healthy and lose the emotional weight and the physical weight, what is at stake for you? Okay? And one of the other things that I want you to do when you're thinking about this commitment to yourself, especially when it becomes the moments that are really hard where you'd rather eat the cake than stick to your commitments, you have to start thinking about what would feel worse right now. What would feel worse right now? Right? You want the food so freaking bad in this moment because you feel entitled to have it. And I have an episode, I'll have to figure out which one it is, but I have an episode all about like the fat girl entitlement. And we feel like we're entitled to have what we want and we want it now and I'm going to do whatever I want to do because I just need to have that cake. Right? But you have to think a commitment means you're able to see the bigger picture. Right? Think about your spouse. If you are not faithful to your spouse, they may not know today, tomorrow, next week, but what's the implication next year? What's the implication for your family later on if you make these decisions, right? It might feel good in the moment, but what's going to feel worse? Saying no to the food? Yeah, it's going to suck. It's going to hurt. It's going to you feel like you got to have it right now. But what's going to feel worse? That or standing in front of your closet with nothing to wear and going through the whole body hate shame cycle again, right? So you can sit there all day long and say, I don't like eating healthy. I don't like, having to tell myself no. I don't like having to blah, blah, blah. But do you enjoy hating yourself? Do you enjoy not fitting in your clothes? Do you enjoy putting your life on hold? Because let's talk about what actually matters. Do you enjoy not having fun? Do you enjoy sitting at home, sitting on the sidelines while everybody else is having fun? Is that fun? Does that feel good? That feels better than a cake and donuts and cheeseburgers? That feels better? Really? Does it? So see what I'm saying? When we're zombie walking, we're not asking ourselves these questions. We're just going through the motions of. Then we go to the drive-thru. We're like, why did I order that? Why did you order that? Because you didn't think about it. Because you didn't think about it. You didn't make a commitment to yourself, and you sure as shit didn't think about what it was going to feel like to put that in your mouth. So then after, it's like this big pity party of shame and guilt because you went through the drive-thru and you ate what you ate. So if you enjoy putting your life on hold, if you enjoy feeling miserable in your own skin, if you enjoy being on this constant cycle, the yo-yo diet body hate shame cycle, then don't make a commitment to yourself. Keep doing what you're doing. But if you're sick and tired of it, then you have to start committing to yourself, keeping those commitments so that you build trust and confidence in yourself. Because when you build trust and confidence in yourself, you no longer stop and start over on Monday. Because you know that you're not going to give up. You know that you're not going to give up on yourself. And so you stop the whole Monday start over cycle, right? And then I also want you to think about what it's going to feel like if you don't keep that commitment. If I don't keep that commitment that I made to myself to eat healthy 5 days a week, if I don't keep that commitment, what's going to happen? What's at stake? Because I don't ever, ever, and this is one for me, I don't ever want to have that feeling again of the season changing, okay, meaning we go from like winter to summer, because that's pretty much what it does here. It doesn't even have a spring. We go from winter to summer, and I don't ever want to have that feeling of standing in front of the mirror, grabbing a pair of shorts out of my closet and going, holy shit, they don't go up over my knees. And then going, oh my God, I can't believe I did it again. And that's what I used to do. How did I let this happen? How did I get here? Well, I got here because I didn't keep commitments to myself. I got here because I decided that eating was more important than taking care of myself. That's how you got there. Nobody just gains weight. It doesn't just happen. Nothing just happens, right? And I just like that feeling for me is so embedded in my brain that I don't ever want to feel like that again. And you feel like that if you stand in front of the mirror and your clothes don't fit and you don't know how you got there because you're zombie walking through life. That's exactly how you got there. So the first and foremost thing you need to do is we make these commitments to ourselves, okay? So you also have to accept that you will have bad days. Because this is what happens. When we first start our weight loss journey, and when I say start our weight loss journey, it could be we're starting over on Monday, it's been 6 months since the last diet, or it's been a year, whatever. When you tell yourself you're starting over and you're going on this weight loss journey, what do? You're obsessed with doing it perfectly. So you get so that's why you do that whole like ritual of let me get all the bad food out of my house. Let me go hit up all the restaurants that I love. Let me go eat some cake. Let me go do all the bad stuff that I can't do ever again, because you tell yourself you can't do it again because you're going to be the perfect little dieter, except you've never been before. So why are you going to be that now? Why will this be different if nothing else about you has changed? If nothing else about your behavior has changed, why do you think this time will be different? It's a lie that you're telling yourself. So when you start your weight loss journey over and you tell yourself you're going to do it perfectly, and you're obsessed with having this clean slate. So like your food journal is clean and you don't have any bad stuff in there. You're not going over your points and you're not going over your calories, and you're so obsessed with this little clean slate of a journal, your food plan, your food journal, whatever it is that you're tracking, or even it's just in your mind. Because for me, it was the journaling, right? Like, oh, I don't want to have a bad point day, or I don't want it to look bad on my journal that no one else but me can see. So you're all excited. You got a clean slate. You got food in the house. You got all these meals you're planning, and you're doing the most. You're telling yourself you're going to work out 90 minutes a day. Girl, you haven't even been working out for months. How the hell are you going to start working out 90 minutes a day and not burn yourself out? Get real with yourself. Or you're coming up with all these you got 7 new meal plans or 7 new meal ideas for the week, and you don't like to cook. And yes, I'm talking to myself about that one, because that's what I used to do. So I'm just going to magically go from this person who can't stand to cook to making 7 new meals that I've never made before, just so I can have this clean slate, right? So you're afraid to mess up your clean slate. And so rather than have a messy slate with a slip up or a binge or whatever, you mess up on Wednesday when Susie Q asked you to go out to dinner and happy hour. And so now, instead of putting all that shit on your food journal, and instead of getting back to it the next day or the next meal, oh, this makes perfect sense. You'd just rather binge eat your way to Monday. How the fuck does that make sense? Honestly, how does that make sense? Instead of putting down happy hour and I had cheeseburgers and I had this and I had that, instead of putting that into your journal, your mental journal or your paper journal or your digital journal, whatever, you would rather just slash all your other tires and binge your way to Monday and gain another 5 pounds and be bloated and miserable. And what did you do again? You did not keep the commitment to yourself. So tell me, in what universe does any of that thinking make sense? But that's what we do, right? That's what we do. And it's all because we haven't accepted that you're gonna have a bad day. You're just going to have bad days. That's life. Okay? Not every single day in our life is easy. Not every single day in our life is like, you're just like checking the boxes and you're like, hell yeah, this is like the best day ever. We have those days and I relish those days, but it's not every single day. And you need to know that every day is not perfect and happy and fun. It's just not. And you know what I'm saying? Like when you first start on the diet and you're gung-ho and you're excited and you're like, ooh, I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything perfect. Go me. And then all of a sudden, let's just say day 7, 9, 10, you're just like, oh my God, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this. And you think you're broken, but you're not. You're human. Right? And it's because this journey is not perfect and it will never be perfect because that's just life. And the quicker you can accept that, the faster you will lose weight, you will stop zombie walking, and you will feel happy. Because I think we all at some point think that we're going to just arrive one day at this point in our life where everything's going to be great and everything's going to be perfect and everything's going to be happy and you're never going to have another bad day and you're never going to be tempted again by food and you're never going to want to just shove your face and take out because you're sad. You think that someday that's just going to magically happen in your journey, and it's not. Even when you do the hard work, you're still going to have those days. But the difference becomes what separates you from being the zombie walker to the irresistible you version of yourself is that you start remembering the commitment you made to yourself and why you want this, and you remember that feeling that you never want to feel again. That's the difference. So we're going to make commitments to ourselves. We're going to accept that we have bad days. And number 3, the third mindset shift or concept that you need to embrace is that feeling your emotions sucks. It just sucks. So back a few episodes ago, I shared how I have lost 60 pounds since the birth of my daughter. I'm still on my weight loss journey. And I shared in that episode how that's probably not impressive to you because zombie walking you, diet culture you, wants to hear that I did it in this crazy, fast, easy diet plan. You want to hear what that is so you can do it. But I told you my answer will not impress you because I didn't lose 60 pounds with some crazy diet and exercise plan. I talked in that episode about how nobody wants to lose weight the way I'm doing it because it's not fun. Why is it not fun? Because guess what? You got to feel your feelings. You got to actually deal with your shit. You got to deal with your shit that you've been pushing down for how many years? How many years have you been pushing down your stuff? How many? Right? And it's a hell of a lot easier to go home, pick up takeout, shove your face in it, watch Netflix till you're passing out, and promise yourself you'll just start over tomorrow, than it is to go home and cry and feel and deal. Who wants to do that? Nobody wants to do that. You know, so you have to realize that the only way through all of this is to feel your emotions, the ones that make you want to scream, the ones that you're running from. That's the only way you're going to go and lose the weight, the physical weight, especially the emotional weight. You'll never lose the emotional weight if you don't do this. I mean, that's just, hello. So continuing to binge and emotional eat and shove your face in food when the going gets hard, like, you're never going to keep those commitments to yourself. And so keeping that commitment to yourself means I had a really bad day. I did something really messed up. I shouldn't have done what I did. And I don't want to deal with it, but I have to. Right? And, this stuff is going to keep popping up. Like, I will share, this podcast episode is super long today, but I will share something that happened to me recently. I've got some, like, adult stuff going on, right? Adulting is hard. Nobody wants to do it. And let's just be honest, it was a financial thing that was happening, and a payment that I am supposed to be receiving all of a sudden stopped abruptly with no warning. How's that for paying your bills? How's that for your stress? And I could have gone completely into a spiral with that. And I kind of did for a day or two, but I gave myself a time limit to say, you know what? This is overwhelming, but you know what? Everything else in your life always works itself out, and this is going to work itself out too. And within a couple of days, it did. Right? So the difference when you're zombie walking, though, is you're not even self-aware enough to have those conversations with yourself. So what do? You just eat and eat and eat and eat to get through it. And sometimes you don't even realize that you don't even realize that you're doing that to avoid the other stuff going on. But when you wake up and you're no longer zombie walking, it was like me. I had a choice last week. You either spiral, keep eating out of control because you don't want to deal with the reality, or you pick yourself up, cancel the pity party, and let's actually do stuff that is productive. And that's what I decided to do. And I have to say also, the pity party and the eating that I would do now pales in comparison to like 10, 20 years ago. It's not the same at all. Right? So you're going to have to learn how to feel your emotions. You're going to have to learn how to feel like shit and not just shove food down your throat to get rid of it. And it's going to suck and it's going to be hard. But would you rather sit there and feel what you feel and not eat the cake and not binge eat the takeout? Would you rather do that and be mad that you can't have it? Or would you rather stand in front of the mirror and not have anything to wear because you gained another 20 pounds this year? Your choice. Pick it. And so that other feeling that comes up when we want the food and we want it now, that fat girl entitlement, is because you think you're going to miss out on something. If you don't eat at the festival, if you don't eat at the birthday party, if you don't eat after work by yourself in front of Netflix, you're going to miss out. What are you missing out on? Are you missing out on your tight clothes? Are you missing out on hating yourself a little bit more? And this is why in my programs, I talk about one of my guiding principles is called Feed Your Soul. Because Feed Your Soul is about doing other things in your life that you love, that make you happy, that bring you joy, that are not food related. Because right now, if food is your only happiness, if food is the only thing you have to look forward to, girl, we need to have a conversation. Because yes, food is fun, food is part of life, and it should be, and we celebrate with food, and that's a fact, that's not going away. But if that's the only thing you have to deal with things, we got a lot of work to do. So know that feeling your emotions, it sucks, but you got to do it. If you want to keep the commitment, you have to do this. You have to go through it. Because until you face that, you're going to just stay where you are. And you're going to keep doing this for another 5, 10, 20 years. And then keep adding the weight on that you're going to gain because of it. So the next thing is self-awareness. Self-awareness, honestly, is like the heart and soul of everything I'm talking about today. And, that is the difference in the decisions that you make. And I just gave you a great example of, in 1999, I would have, and this is true, I went into a nasty spiral. I went into the deepest, darkest depression of my life, and I had no idea what was going on. I was so asleep. I mean, I was like a queen zombie walking around. Like, I had no idea why I was doing what I was doing, what I was doing. I was in denial. I didn't want to think about it. All I know is I was eating like it was going out of style. And next thing I know, my shorts don't even go over my ankles or my knees. Next thing I know, my stomach has literally ripped itself apart with all the stretch marks. And I mean, it was red and angry. And I'm sitting there going, I don't know how this happened. How did I get here? I don't know. How did this happen to me? Like, not taking responsibility for what I was doing. Right? And the difference now with the self-awareness, like, I noticed myself a week or two ago going like, all right, you know that these type of situations have the tendency to make you spiral. And if you let it take you down, what's at the end of that road for you? What's in the end of that road for Amy is depression. And that depression is like wrapped all up in massive weight gain. Like the two are just like spinning around, right? And one feeds the other and the other. And I'm like, hell no. Hell to the no. Am I going through that again? So when I think about the consequences of not keeping a commitment to myself, I'm not willing to let that happen because I will never again have those feelings. And we always think that we don't have control of your, like, oh, I lost my job, or oh, I lost this. And like, yeah, that sucks and that happens and it's gonna happen. But how you deal with it, that's on you. And I get that now. And that was the thing that has separated me from the old version of myself because I know what's at risk. And I refuse to go down that road again because I do not like it there. And I get to decide whether I go down that road or I get to keep going on my own. Right? Regardless of the situations, regardless of if it's storming, if it's sunny, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm gonna put my windshield washers on and I'm gonna keep going. Okay? And you gotta do the same. Right? So having self-awareness of what it is you're doing and being aware of your patterns and your triggers and why you're doing what you're doing, that's how you start waking up and you stop zombie walking. Okay? And number 5 is you have to know, this kind of goes with having a bad day, but I want to call it out separately, and that is having a binge, or however you define like binge, because I feel like that's kind of different for everybody. Having a binge, a slip up, overeating, emotional eating, whatever the word is, that if that happens to you, because it will, it's not if, it will. When those things happen, I want you to know that it doesn't mean you're starting over. Because this is what we do. We're on our diet, we're going good, and then we overeat, and we're like, this is why I can't lose weight. This is why I always go on this cycle. I'm always going to be like this. Like, why can't I just do it? What's wrong with me? I'm broken. I'm a piece of shit. I'm this, I'm that. No, you're not. No, you're not. So know that doesn't mean if you come home and you decide to break your commitment to yourself and you overeat and you Netflix and chill all night, that doesn't mean that you start over on Monday. What it means is that you're a human. What you did is completely normal. And how are you going to do it differently next time? So you have that conversation with yourself. You have to learn from what you did, and you do all of this without beating yourself up about it. Get over it. What value Is it giving you to beat yourself up because you think you're supposed to? Because I think that's a lot of it. You think you're supposed to beat yourself up. You think you're supposed to call yourself a fat loser and all this other kind of stuff. And that's got to stop because you're doing that. That's your decision, right? If you're listening to me now you know you can make a choice. And if you're still doing that, that's on you. So if we have a bad meal, if we have a slip up, if we have a binge, if we have whatever, we have to just learn from it and say, okay, I did this because blah, blah, blah. This is how I'm going to do better next time. And now I'm going to move on and we're over it. We're not going to talk about this anymore. And we're not going to decide that this one like time of overeating at dinner or this one like night out means we're never going to be able to change. We're never going to be able to lose our weight. This goes back to you better accept that there's going to be bad days. And that's why I'm telling you, you have to accept that there will be bad days. And that bad days and slip-ups do not mean we throw it all away and we start over on Monday. Because if you keep throwing it away on Wednesday to start over on Monday, how is that breaking the commitment that you made to yourself? How is that getting you closer to how you want to feel? And also, how is that getting you closer to going back to how you don't want to feel? Okay, so I tell everybody this, and I'm going to say it again. I use the analogy about your tires, okay? If you get a flat tire, so the last time you ever got a flat tire, did you get out of your car and take your machete or your pocket knife and like slash the shit out of the other 3 tires? And I mean slash the shit out of them. Not poke a hole, but you was like slashing them things like Jason. Okay? If that's what you're doing, think about that with your food and your diet and your exercise and everything else. So you're going to be good to yourself as long as you can do it perfectly? Are you kidding me? No. You recognize slip-ups are normal. Bad days are going to happen. And you know what? I didn't make the best decision today with how I handled this. Next time, I'm going to be better prepared by ... You have a plan. You learn from the lesson and you move on. You stop calling yourself names. You stop beating yourself up. And you don't say, well, I'll just do it again on Monday. Because you won't. You'll be right back here again. Okay? So I know this episode is super long, but there was a lot to share. And so just to recap again, the way we stop zombie walking through life is we make a commitment to ourselves. We accept that we're going to have bad days. We have to take the good with the bad. We accept that, you know what? Feeling my emotions sucks. But if I want to stop zombie walking, if I want to come Irresistible You, this is what I have to do. Because this is what I've been avoiding. I also have to create a ton of self-awareness around what I tell myself, how I feel, my patterns, my triggers, so that I know if I'm going to be spiraling or if I'm getting ready to face a big situation, I can prepare for that. Okay? That's self-awareness. That I'm not going to just wake up one day and go, how did I gain 50 pounds? How did I get here? You know how you got there. When you stop denying how you got there, you can admit how you got there. So self-awareness is going to prevent that holy shit, how did I get here moment. Okay? And also that having a slip up or a binge is normal. Expect it, but prepare for it. Learn from it and move on. Okay? So I hope all of this was helpful, you guys. If this episode or anything that I share on the Irresistible You podcast is actually helping you in some way in your life, I would love, love, love to hear from you. If you can go onto iTunes and tell me about that in a rating and review, that is the number one way to help me grow the podcast, to reach other women, and to help other women feel better about themselves, to lose the emotional weight. So I would love you a long time if you could go and do that. And make sure if you haven't joined already, that you go over and join our free podcast discussion group on Facebook. And that is facebook.com/groups/irresistibleyou. Request to join. There's a couple questions. It's totally free. And that is where we discuss the podcast. We have support. You can talk to other people going on this journey with you. And it's just a lot of fun inside of the group. So again, I hope this was helpful. I hope you are doing amazing. You got this no matter what, like no matter where you are in your journey, no matter how many times you have started and stopped, you got this and you will get there. So until next time, stay irresistible.